Hello and welcome to EDT Academy. Today we will be looking at the new features that have been brought to you in EDT version 8.5. Roles can be defined in a flexible way. In the Administration Users Roles Groups page, click on any existing role to define all functions that this role has access to, not only in the Administration tab, but also the Batch, Report, Analyst, and Reviewer ones too, plus the Document Viewer. As well as access to whole tabs, you can also control which functions within each tab this role has access to. Instead of editing an existing role, click on New to add a new role here, which opens up this page. Add or change a name of this role here, then tick on each function you want this role to have across all EDT pages, and untick any functions that you do not wish that role to have. Then click Save. You can create further different roles to suit all combinations of access to this functionality across EDT, thereby creating as many bespoke rules as you require. The Permissions report also provides details of what EDT features are accessible to each user via their role. These details are shown in this section. You can now define one folder per case as being the quarantine folder. This folder would typically be used to allow anyone to isolate a potentially privileged document and remove it from the view of most users. Any user can potentially add a document and its family into the quarantine folder, regardless of that folder's permissions, using the Move to Quarantine function in the Document Viewer. In Administration Folders, the list of folders will show which folder currently is the quarantine folder, if any. To nominate a folder as being the quarantine folder, click on an existing folder or click New here. In the folder page, add or edit any name and permissions details, then tick this tick box to define this folder as the quarantine folder. Then click Save. Note that only one folder at a time can be the quarantine folder. So if an existing folder was already the quarantine folder, it would then lose that status when that new folder is defined as the quarantine folder. Once a quarantine folder is set up, a user can use the Quarantine button in the Document Viewer to move a document to that folder, and thereby hiding it from users who do not have access to that folder, including themselves. However, to do this, they must have a role that allows them to quarantine documents in the Document Viewer. When this is the case, this icon will appear to that user when using any tab. To quarantine a document and its family, which will always be quarantined along with the chosen document, click on this icon. Then a pop-up message will appear warning that this document and its family will be moved into the quarantine folder. Click OK to complete that move. Then the user will no longer be able to see this document unless they were given access to the folder set to be the quarantine folder. XML files containing short messages exported from the Celebrite reader can now be imported via Importer. When in Importer, choose Celebrite XML from the Type drop-down list here to import this type. Also, in Importer, the types of file that can be chosen has now been altered so that EDT and Ringtail are two separate formats. When in the Keyword Reports page, you can also classify the document as being retained and/or tag the results of any search made on this page. This is done at the same time as running the report by clicking Retain the Results or Tag the Results here, then clicking Run. Video and audio files can be played back in the Near Native tab. Which file type can be played will depend on which browser you are using. IE11 supports the MP3 and M4A audio formats and the MP4 H.264 video format. Edge and Chrome support the MP3, M4A, OGG, WAV, AAC, and FLAC audio formats, and the MP4 H.264 video format. For supported files, various controls will appear in the viewer. Click on the play button and volume controls to review the files. If the user attempts to view any other audio/video formats in the Near Native tab, a not supported message will be displayed, and a similar message will be displayed if the user attempts to view any audio/video formats in the Markup tab. The appropriate icon will be displayed in the search results grid for common audio/video formats. SAML 2.0 Single Sign-On is also supported from the login page. Previously, imported files and various other types of files were stored in SQL Server. This is no longer the case. All these files are now stored in the Common File Store, CFS. The importer will store files in the Common File Store instead of the document content table in the database. Therefore, the EDT file service will be used to provide native files from source data to EDT Web for display and download, imported files, PDFs, TIFFs, etc. from the CFS to EDT Web for display and download, upload services from the bulk update page and the admin import a document page. The names of two of the main tabs have been renamed to Analyst and Reviewer. The functions they contain remain the same unless otherwise specified in this video. When using the size filter in Analyst, choose from options 1 KB to 10 KB, 10 KB to 50 KB, 50 KB to 500 KB, 500 KB to 5 MB, more than 5 MB. Size can be used to identify particular types of document. For example, the filter 1 KB to 10 KB option can be used to help identify logos. The Analyst viewer will also display photos and images in the document area, as in this example here. When using the document viewer, back on the reviewer page, the row in the document list that corresponds to the document currently displayed in the document viewer will be highlighted. Note that the display native email files .msg, .eml, and .emlx in .mht format setting from administration, display settings, has now been removed. This is obsolete after the introduction of the Near Native viewer. When in Administration Exports, you now have an option to enable or disable the verification process, which by default is run after the export completes. Remove the tick here to stop that process being run automatically. And this concludes our look at the new features in EDT version 8.5. Thank you for joining EDT Academy today. Please join us again for some further training.